And all I do is I just do a leg extension, right? A little bit at a time. I got this wrapped around one finger. I can pull it with one finger, right over the knot. But if you go slowly and carefully, it should hang on to it. Hey, it's Greg here with MaritimeGardening.com, and I got a stretch of warm days, unseasonable warm days, so I decided to come out and get some stuff done in the garden. And I got to move some heavy logs, and a fair distance, right? Not just a few feet sort of thing, right? So I decided to do a video on moving heavy things like logs, because I see a lot of these homesteader type channels where they basically just use ATVs and tractors to do everything. Or machines, various kinds of machines. Which, I mean, that's great if you've got them, but most people don't have that sort of thing. I don't. I'm not a homesteader. I have a full-time job, and I just happen to have an enormous garden in my backyard and do a lot of homesteader type things, right? Anyway, so, with no further ado, I've got, this one isn't so big. So, I mean, the easiest way to move something big, if you're reasonably strong, right, is to just to pick it up. Right, you walk it up like this, right? And then you can bear hug it like that, right? And just walk with it, right? It's probably one of the safer ways to do it. But that all depends on your physical strength, how strong your back is, and all that sort of stuff. If it's really long, you can tip it onto your shoulder and pick it up like that. This one's kind of short and awkward, so I actually have to take a knee and get really low. Get it balanced, and then stand up, which I can do with this. This one's probably at my limit. I don't know what this weighs. I'd say it's at least 100 pounds from the weight of it, right? I feel like I'm picking up one of my teenagers, right? So, and I can walk with it. I could carry it like that. But the heavier something gets, the more risky that sort of operation becomes. Also, if you've got multiple things to move, you might wear out, depending on your age and your physical fitness and all that sort of stuff. If you just like, if this was the only thing I had to move today, I'd probably just pick it up and walk with it. I think I got that in me. I got to walk about 50 meters with it. I think I could do it. But I got multiple things like this, and some of them are even bigger and heavier. So, I'll show you some techniques here. First one is one I've shown in previous videos. You get a reasonably long rope and you double it up like that. So you get a loop, right? See that? Ideally, there's a knot, right here there's a knot near the end. So you put it as close to the end of the log as you can. A loop, right? Let me just bring the camera over closer so you can see what I'm doing. So I've passed the loop underneath the log. I'm just going to grab the working end and pull that through. Okay. Now I've got a kind of knot here it's called a lark's head. Right, this knot will, right, the harder I pull, the tighter it will get, but it's always easy to undo. Right? It'll always tighten when I pull. When I want it to loosen up, it loosens right up. Right, and you can see there's a knot right there. So that'll keep them from slipping off the end. There's another knot right here. If there was no knots and it was completely smooth, I'd just find a 4-inch nail and drive it in just about an inch. Drive something up in there, right, for the knot to fetch up on. Sometimes the knot will just constrict tight enough that it holds, but sometimes it won't. Depends on how slippery the wood is and how grippy the rope you're using is. It's a function of those two things. Anyway, from this point onward, it's a relatively easy operation to move the log. But you can just grab it and pull, right, and move it along like that. Or if it's exceptionally heavy or you're an exceptionally small person or whatever, you put it around your waist. So the rope is on your butt, right? So you don't want it around your back. You want it around your butt, right? That way, you're taking your lower back out of the equation. What's doing all the work is your body weight just by leaning. So right now, let's say my legs are completely straight. I can just lean backwards and make this thing go. Right, so it's your body weight acting on the rope, but you don't want to just tip over like that because you can fall down and get hurt, right? So all you want to do is have 1 foot forward and 1 foot back. Right, that way you can't fall backwards, right? And you have, again, you have it around your butt, right? And you bring it around like this. You can pinch it off like this, or you can just have one hand here and one hand. This is what I tend to like. I have one hand against my belly, and the other hand's right down here, sometimes down here, but ideally right around here, just supporting it in that position. And all I do is I just do a leg extension, right? A little bit at a time. But if the thing you're moving is exceptionally heavy, that might be the only way you can do it. But you'll find you can move a heck of a lot of weight by having this strapped around your butt, arm in here, other hand down here. Again, you're not pulling with this arm because that uses your back muscles, right? You're just using this hand to keep it against your hip, and you're just moving a little bit, right? And leaning back at the same time. You're leaning back and extending with this leg, right? You're using your weight, right? But you're also doing a leg extension, little bits at a time, right? So you can move a lot of weight using that technique. Now, let's say it's something even heavier. What do you do then, right? Well, let me show you. So I got a log right here. This isn't too heavy for me. I could pick this up. But again, if I had to move a whole bunch of these, I wouldn't want to do it that way. So you tip it up, walk it over, and onto a dolly. Now you can get one of these dollies for about 60 bucks at hardware store. You get the one with the really big wheels, so you can take it over rough terrain like this, right? You don't push it, you pull it, right? But with a dolly like this, right, you can move big rocks, logs, things like that, as long as it's not too long, right? Anything about 6 feet high, maybe even 7 feet, depending on your skill, right? You can move it, and it's just way easier to move it that way, right? Especially if you got to go uphill. But there's another trick you can do aside from using a dolly. What if you don't have a dolly, right? Well, there's pulleys. You can use pulleys to move exceptionally heavy things because if you use them right, you actually multiply the force. Let me show you. Now, a lot of us learned about pulleys in our physics class in high school, perhaps. If you were lucky or smart and you took a physics class, which I think everyone should learn some physics. You're better off. Anyway, but a lot of us forget how pulleys work. And I don't want to bore everybody with math, but the gist of it is you can get a force multiplier with one pulley if it's a moving pulley. The general rule of thumb is that a fixed pulley doesn't multiply force, it just changes direction. Whereas a moving pulley does multiply force. And the force multiplication is a function of how many ropes are attached to the moving pulleys. If you have a system of pulleys, some of them are moving, some of them are fixed. It's the number of ropes attached to the moving pulleys that tells you how much you're amplifying your force by. So I'm going to attach this pulley to this log. See how I have this pulley attached to a rope like this, a loop, right? That's so I can stick it around logs and such, right? Put that under there. Okay, so I pass it through. Again, that lark's head knot, right? That simple lark's head knot. Okay, so now I've got a pulley. Because the log's moving, because I'm pulling the log, this is a moving pulley. So I'm going to take a rope, I'm going to tie it to a tree over there, and I'm going to pull on the other end, right? Because the rope goes through the pulley. So I've got two lines through a moving pulley, and that means my strength is double. So with a trick like this, something that maybe I would have to use the majority of my strength to move, I could have one of my kids move, because let's say they're half as strong as me. My kids right now are 12 and 14, and they're both about half my size, so let's say they have about half my strength, right? So something that I can move reasonably comfortably, but it's impossible for them to move, I can just double their strength with a system like this, right? Let me just tie it to a tree over there. Hopefully I got enough rope for that. Okay, so I got this thing attached to a tree over there, a fixed immovable object. Pass it through the pulley. I haven't got much of a working end here, but I've got enough to work with. Okay, so now with this, I can grab the rope and pull. And I mean this log, I picked it up, I say it weighs 100 pounds. And just wrap it around you got this wrapped around one finger. I can pull it with one finger, right? Right? That's because with this pulley, this log weighs half as much now. You're 20 years old and you're all strong and you're in the gym all the time. None of this matters. But as you grow in age, maybe it does. By dragging, any way of dragging, the different ways I've shown you here, yes, you have friction, but as long as you can keep the front of the thing you're dragging up so it doesn't dig in, right? That's why you're standing over it like this. You're picking up on it, right? So there's an upward motion, but your upward motion is quickly translated into lateral motion because I've got this rope attached to a tree over there. I'm pulling up, but it's going that way. So I can use my legs, pick up on it to pull it forward, or I can put it around my hips like I showed before, using the pulley to double my force, or half the force required to move this, and just use my legs to move it along, or just walk with it, right? Yes, you have to reattach it. You have to keep finding things to attach it to keep moving it. But if it's something exceptionally heavy and it's just you and you don't want to rent a tractor, right? And you want to get it done and you don't want to hurt yourself, that's the smart way to do it, right? Because you can move a lot of weight that way. Of course, if you're moving it and leapfrogging from tree to tree, as a point to pull against, it's useful to know a good knot for attaching it to a tree that's easy to untie. So let me show you that one. So the knot I used to attach the line that I pulled that log with with the pulley is called a pony knot. All you do is you wrap the cord around the tree, double it over, make basically an overhand knot, and you put it through like that. And you cinch it up tight. I can pull on that as hard as I want. Will not come undone. But when I want it released, I just pull this tag end and it comes off, right? So again, we put it around, right? Put it around. This goes around like that, right? I mean, you could put this up through, but it's better to put what they call a bite through, like that. Tighten it as much as you can. Get it around the tree. So this will not come loose. Right, I'm going to pull on this as hard as I can right now. 215-pound man, 6'4". Okay. Easy to untie. So that's a useful knot for doing this sort of thing. Right? I mean, this knot will not come undone if you hook something to a car that's exceptionally heavy. If you tow a car with this, it will become too tight to undo, right? But for the sort of thing I'm doing here, if you can get it nice and snug, right, it'll hold. It'll hold for whatever you're going to pull if you're just using your human strength and, using a pulley or whatever. And then when you want it undone, you just pull that tag end like that. So in real time, it's a fast knot to tie. Very fast to tie. Very easy to undo. Whoops. Right, again. Right, this is a knot you tie. Want to look like a boss. Right, quick, easy. Easy to undo. Alright, so the final scenario is one where we're going uphill. And I got a heavy log here. This one's about 1 foot in diameter at the base. Okay, so when you're going uphill, just because you're on an angle, sometimes the front of the log can dig in and make it really, really difficult. This one's over a root right now, so it's not that bad, but as I keep going up, it's going to find things to grab on. There's a tree root right here gonna grab on that, so you gotta stop and pick it up, right? All that sort of stuff, right? So it can be very difficult. Yeah. Very easy to drag something up a downhill, but challenging to take something uphill. So, I mean, yes, using your hips, sort of that hip pull that I showed earlier, using the pulley, all that helps. But if the log is going to keep fetching up on things, it's going to be a problem. If it's small enough, you can get it on a dolly, like I showed earlier, take it up the hill that way. Well, what if it's just too big and too awkward or whatever to use a dolly with? What do you do then? Well, one trick is to make a kind of sled using a shovel. I wouldn't recommend using a big plastic shovel for this, a nylon. You know, I recommend, you could probably get away with it. It's reasonably strong, but you might break your shovel. Aluminum's great, right? This is just begging to be a sled, right? You get the thing up, and you might have to pry it up if it's too heavy. I just picked it up with one hand there, but let's say it's too heavy, right? You get the shovel underneath it, okay? Get the nut, get your knot nice and tight, and at the top of the log so it doesn't roll off, okay? So, just get the knot, send it around, just a simple half hitch. Snug it up nice and tight. That should be enough. If it's not, you just do two half hitches, right? Now that I have it like this, I've got something round here so it can ride up over rocks like this, roots like that, especially when I'm going uphill. That's when the edge of the log grabs all that stuff, and it can really be exhausting, right? It breaks your momentum. You got it moving up a hill, and all of a sudden the thing stops, so it jars your body, exhausts you. You have to stop what you're doing, go stand over, pick it up and pull. Every one of these fetching up points are going to just drain your energy and break your momentum and frustrate you, right? So something like this will work. Let me show you in action. So the first step is to just, I got my line doubled up, got a loop in the end, pass it through. Pass the whole line through. All right, that'll tighten up right there, nice and good. Okay, now what I do is I put it around the shovel, I pass it around the shovel and below this end, right? Like that. And I just do the same thing up here. All right, so now I got this knot here, and this knot there. All right, so they won't move, and they're going to pull on this. And they're going to keep the shovel straight at about a 45-degree angle, because I'm going to hold it near my waist. So it's like that. So let me just show you that again. Right, so I've attached it here just with a simple lark's head, like I've shown with just about everything I've done here today. And here I just pass under and up and under and up. Okay, now that's ready to take some tension. I got a nice little sled here for my log to go on. Let's see how well it works. Right, around my waist, and up we go. Right over the knot. All right, so that's how you solve the hill problem, by putting a shovel under it, using that shovel like a sled, right? And tying the rope on a particular way to the shovel. That way you can pull it up the hill and the edge of the log won't dig it in the roots and cause problems, okay? One other way to take something uphill is to use a dolly. Let me show you that. Right, now the trick here is to use our dolly like a wheelbarrow, okay? So we got this lip here on the dolly. We're gonna have the log sitting up on this lip, but first we need to modify the log so it'll stay there, right? So that's not too hard to do. all we have to do is take a saw. So if you're using this for something ornamental, you want to do this on the side no one's going to see. If you're just using it for firewood or whatever, who cares? You don't have to cut in too far, just an inch or so. Right, then with an axe, right, we just cut to that saw cut. Okay, like so. All right. Also at the other end, it's handy to flatten it off a little bit. Let me show you that. All right, so we just take the axe and square that off a little bit. Nothing fancy. All right, so now, I mean, this only works if you can pick up one end of the thing you're moving, right? And because it's laying flat, I only have to pick up half of its weight. Because it's on a slope here, it even weighs a little less than that. Right, we pick it up, bring the dolly back, flip it over, and make sure that it grabs that edge we made. It's on it there now. Yeah, it's got it. Okay. So now I can lash it to the dolly, right, to make sure it doesn't come loose. But if you go slowly and carefully, it should hang on to it. Like that, see? You can't let go of this thing or it'll do that. So don't let go of it. Right? But once you get it on there, you know, it should stay grabbed onto that because you've got some weight acting on it, right? Because you flatten the other end, it should stay put. You just go along carefully. Right? Then you got the advantage of almost zero friction, right? You have to move it, but it's sliding really nicely, right? Its weight's greatly reduced in the sense of what you have to lift. The dolly is bearing all the weight. The only force you have to provide is enough force to break the moment of inertia, right? Just to get it moving this way. And half the weight's on the wheels. And the other half of the weight's on a point that slides really easily. So as long as you're not going up a mountain, you can use a dolly to move it along like this. And if you want to get clever and ingenious, you can tie a rope to the dolly, put it around your waist, put all the weight into your legs, using your weight and that sort of thing to move it. So there you have it. A number of ways to move heavy things using simple implements, simple machines, basically, right? You've got the wheel, right? You've got the pulley, right? And you've got various ways of using rope and your body weight and your skeleton in a smart, safe, careful way to avoid injury, all right? So next time you have to move something heavy and you can't get any help because, I don't know, for whatever reason you can't get any help, you got to do it all on your own. I mean, one of the best ways to move something heavy, of course, is to ask for help or find someone who's exceptionally strong. That's always a good way to do it. But in the absence of that option, and it's all up to you, right? Try one of these techniques, depending on how much you have to move, how heavy it is, and how many times you have to move it. One of these might be better than the other, right? If it's just one thing, maybe just wrapping a rope onto it, put it around your waist is the way to go. If it's not too heavy, maybe you can pick it up, you know, bear hug style or up on your shoulder, what have you. But you use the method that's going to preserve the bulk of your energy. I mean, I'm moving all this stuff over to my garden, and then when I get it there, I got all this stuff to do with it, right? So the work has just begun when I get this to the garden. So I don't want to blow out my back and exhaust myself just getting it there, right? But anyway, a couple tips on moving heavy stuff. Hope you found that interesting. If you did, please like, share, subscribe. Check out my podcast, maritimegardening.com. Until next time, get out there, get at it, have fun in your garden. Thanks for watching. Hey, if you want to help support everything I'm doing here, go to vessies.com to buy whatever you need for your garden this year. And use my coupon code GAVS23 to get free shipping as long as there's a pack of seeds in the order and there's no oversized items in the order. Check out the description box of this video for details. You can buy everything you need from Vessies. They have seeds, fruit bushes and trees, soil amendments, pest solutions, tools, clothing, and lots of other stuff too. So yeah, if you want to help support everything I'm doing here and they sell something you need, buy it from them using my coupon code, and happy gardening.